Peace, family, and welcome to another episode of Underground Railroad Radio. This is your host, Brother Rich. We have with us back for another week, Dr. Delbert Blair. How you doing, Dr. Blair?
Doing well, Brother Rich Merritt. Things are going well with you, too?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, these interesting times on our planet, man, I tell you. I should live so long just to see all these events happening.
Okay, well, we gave y'all a brief outline of a lot of different things last week with Dr. Blair. Today we're going to be focusing on the pineal gland. I mean, if you Google pineal gland, there's so much information out there on the World Wide Web about the pineal gland. This gland has been talked about for centuries upon centuries upon centuries. The ancients used to talk about it. But today we're going to get Dr. Blair's perspective on it and see if we can get some more clarity on this pineal gland. Before we get started, Dr. Blair, please tell them once again, because I know you got some awesome products that are actually going to help people's pineal gland. Tell them the website and everything, how they can contact you to get a hold of some of your products before we get started.
All right, lovely. Love to do that again. I am the director of the Meta Center, and that's short for Metaphysical Center, not Medical Center, but Metaphysical Center. And we're located in Chicago. Been in existence now for almost 40 years, so we're not new at any of these things. And, of course, over that time, I've been able to select products that I think will help people, help myself, and help us all to do better people, have a physical, mental, and spiritual body that is very strong. So I'm very proud of the products, and most of the ones that I handle now, the minimum I've been with these companies is 20 years. So that's a track record that's not going to stop. One of the things, of course, that we have, well, that's, first of all, the website is www.worldwideweb, the T-H-E Meta Center, and that's M-E-T-A in the word center, M-E-T-A-C-E-N-T-E. I suggest that in between the metacenter2.com that you push to, do not type in to. To is only to make sure that you get to my website. And as I've said many times, the only person that I respect who has had respect for me for so long is the brother I'm talking with now, Rich Merritt. He pays for what he gets, and we all can survive that way. But these people on the Internet, if you type in my name on YouTube, I'm everywhere, and they're not paying me a thing. They're stealing from me. So when you push the number 2, you come to my website, buy my products, and buy the things there. So anyway, that's it. The phone number, of course, is 708-422-6685. I repeat again, 708-422-6685. And we have parts monatomic gold, which helps, again, all the cells to vibrate faster. We have diodes that protect you from radiation from cell phones and computers and microwave ovens and MP3 players. And we have magnets. We have even a block magnet, which you used to be able to get those in scientific labs. We can still get them 5,000 Gauss, 6.5 pounds of iron. We also have magnets that the men are loving because they're magnetic penis enhancers. Now, you heard that right. And it does this because there are a lot of guys that are going through a bunch of changes with these PSA tests. And these PSA tests actually snip, and they actually insert things to open up the tubes there that the sperm comes down and all like this. These are very dangerous practices. But by using the two principles, the magnets work on iron, and iron is found in red blood cells along with oxygen. So you got a combination that won't click. By putting this thing around the penis, it draws the red blood cells down, which helps to heal. It also draws down the oxygen, which helps to heal. So you're really freeing 3 birds from one cage. They say 2 birds with 1 stone. No. So now you can heal yourself without pain and also get that erection you want and all like that. So we sell lots of them. We have them different sizes. And last of all, we have a miracle product, and that's Miracle 2000, which by both liquids for people who can't swallow. They both taste very good. One has the two combined have 204 things in them that will help the body, including minerals and antioxidants and vitamins and all like this. So I've had time to shop. I have my pick. I have, of course, tax numbers and all that kind of stuff. So what we have is the best. I'm very proud of it. And I say if you go to our website, you can't make a mistake. It's just a matter of which one do you choose. So thank you very much for letting me say that.
So, Dr. Blair, I want to start out with some basic questions for those, we got people from all ranges who are being introduced to this information via the Internet. This gland, pineal gland, what is it And why did the ancients refer to it as the third eye? Why did they revere it in such a, they talked about it in such a high regard? What is it, and why is it referred to as the third eye or the first eye by some people?
Well, let me say, first of all, in modern allopathy, which means you're a regular medical doctor who uses pharmaceuticals, it's looked on as a very interesting aspect of one of the many glands in the body. We have 5 basic organs, and we have many glands and things that are connected with. My approach is not from their approach. I'm not allopath. I'm more into homeopathy. I don't use pharmaceuticals. I use nutraceuticals. The ancient ones did not have pharmacies. If you remember, they used to have mortar and pistols, and they would grind up leaves. They would grind up seeds. They'd put in apple cider vinegar. They'd use the old remedies by using what the Creator has made and using herbals. This modern science tries to duplicate and make better what was already made the best. I don't think they're gods. They think they are. I don't think that they understand. So my approach is strictly, from this point of view, from an aspect of one who believes in God and nature, that the herbals were there of every kind, that the races of man and mankind and human could all use them. So keep this in mind as you now hear my look at the pineal gland. It's a little different from what they teach. Now, we agree on a couple of things. The pineal gland is located up in the skull in a hypothalamus, and there is within the hypothalamus a bony structure. It's called the Turkish terestica. That Turkish terestica simply means Turkish saddle. In Turkey, at one time, again, they had these long sabers and stuff like that, and since they wanted to also protect their legs and be able to spur their horses, it looked like a Turkish saddle. It's long, elongated. Within that, and hanging from what is called the pituitary gland, is this little ligament there, and this little thing that looks like a pine cone. I call it pineal gland because it looks like a pine cone, a small, very underdeveloped pineal gland. And it vibrates and swings back and forth. Its vibrations give off emanations. And as it vibrates very fast, this begins to spur psychic ability. It also makes what is called melatonin. And melatonin, from which is one of the glands what it secretes there again, melanin is derived. Melanin is black, but it is really not black when you analyze it. They call it the black secretions from that. It is actually dark green. And dark green is the same thing that chlorophyll looks like. So actually it's a chlorophyll type energy that is being produced there, liquid that is being produced there, and fluid that is being produced there, which causes all the things that cause the controversy. Because it's located there in its vibration, they found out that around the body there is an EMF, an electromagnetic field, which means it also includes the head. But the strongest emanations come from the head area. And that is because of this gland there that's constantly vibrating. When it vibrates very fast, there's an energy that is induced from that. And the ancient ones, through the Muladhara and Bhagavad Gita, which is now an Eastern Krishna belief, it believes in those who are Buddhist and those who believe in Krishna. And they also stated that this was a gland of youth, this was a gland of psychicness, and so. And the waves that you see called the ureasis. Now I got to skip around a little bit more. Let me not confuse people. That symbol and its function has been duplicated in many, many ways. So I'm going to go back to the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Bible that they used, or the holy text that they used in Krishna, and belief of that, because they used a term called the ajna. Now, the ajna would be in the forehead, and it would be where the energy waves come out. If those who are familiar with the Sphinx, of course the one in Giza, it shows you a wave like a snake coming out. That snake represents a coiled snake, or so, not coiled, but a wave snake, a snake that produces energy. It represents energy. Now, whether that energy is being drawn in or that energy is drawn out is that function of that gland. And when it's doing so, it does it very well. Now, it also is activated by sunlight. And if you notice, most people now, when the sun is out, they function better. Some people, of course, get sunburned because they don't have much melanin, and consequently they can't protect themselves. But that stimulates, the sun stimulates everything on this planet. And our chlorophyll is produced from melatonin and from the pineal gland. Now, what does chlorophyll do? A plant uses chlorophyll to become photosynthetic. through photosynthesis, which means taking light, synthesize it, and then making material things or make the gland work. It's a power source again. Through photosynthesis, this is how the plant's green leaves are made. That gland does the same thing. It allows you, with the secretion of melanin, to take direct sunlight, use that sunlight for energy, and grow and develop and help things along. That's why it is so beautiful. That's why it is so necessary. And this is why, again, people who have melanin can take much more sunlight, can activate and utilize that sunlight much better, and then when it is stored during the daytime as serotonin, it's played back at night as melatonin, and this is what lets you sleep soundly. Once you have that, you go into a deep state of sleep, very restful, very placated, and your psychic ability increases. So it's your gland of psychicness, it's your gland of being able to use sunlight and produce it directly, and with that in mind, this is what you begin to get. So that's an overview, and it's a big overview from both a general point of view, which is allopathic, and what I consider the sacred and wonderful point of view, which is naturopathic.
Okay, so now we know that the pineal gland is directly connected to the secretion of melatonin. A question I would have is, and you talked about people with more melanin being able to absorb sunlight. The question a lot of people have is, when we say melanin, is the amount of melanin you have directly connected to the color of your skin, meaning what society will refer to you as a light-skinned black man as well as myself. Does that mean that we have less melanin than, say, a dark-skinned brother or a brother who's jet black? I mean, the blacker you are, the more. How do you determine how much melanin you have?
Melanin runs a gamut from a kind of a light tan to a golden brown all the way to black. When it is jet black, it means, again, that you can take in all kind of sunlight that normally the darker you are, the more sun you can take. Now, they've got a theory going out here, which I disagree with, stating that, that melanin, how can I say, that black people should be they're not getting enough vitamin D, and consequently they need even shots and applications of vitamin D. That is absolutely impossible. Now, what is happening with it, that gets into a whole lot of things. We've got a lot of chemtrails and stuff up there blocking the sunlight. We've got a lot of distortion fields up there doing that, and so it reacts differently. But let's go with a normal situation there again. Melanin is in every cell of the body, and it's been asked in many cases, is a jokeful time and not, and in seriousness. And black people tan. Yes, because the more of that energy from the sun you get to protect you from getting cancers and tumors and melanomas and carcinomas, that those rays are stopped at your skin surface. So that means your skin gets blacker and blacker and blacker. But it is not penetrating into the soft tissues, which can cause cancer, melanomas, and carcinomas. That's the protection it gives. You just get blacker. It does not penetrate into the body. Now, that is not utilized, it stops right there, and that's it. That is utilized stimulates your psychic ability, your ability to remember your dreams, dream in color, and to astral project, to remote view, and to begin to utilize psychic ability when you go to sleep. Because every time you go to sleep at night or during the day, whether it's diurnal or nocturnal, you come out of your body. And actually you die to the physical body and are born again. So now you see emphasis on all your religious cultures, emphasis on what that beautiful gland can do, and the emphasis because of racism in here again, why a lot of distortion in thoughts and distortion, therefore, in the field of energy can now be brought about. I'm giving you a direct overview.
Now, I keep hearing this term, calcified pineal gland. A lot of people say it, but they don't really know. If you ask them to explain, what does a calcified pineal gland mean? We hear this term, but what does it mean to have a calcified pineal gland and to work on not having a calcified pineal gland?
If you do things that are contrary to your glands, your body, your organs, your secretions, and your vitamins and mineral absorption, then it will calcify. That is your gland of youth. They say in many cases it's the seat of the soul. And when it calcifies, that means that no longer can it function with sunlight because of taking in things that are pharmaceutical, because of taking in things that are counter to what you need, because they're not foods at all, but we think they are, it will begin to calcify. It gets hard. And as it gets a covering over it, it cannot absorb that sunlight. It ceases to function. And if it goes all the way out, now you've got to get a replacement, because now the whole gland is calcified. It means it's rigid. It's no longer taking sunlight and exchanging energy and taking sunlight. It now will not work. Now you have to go to your drugs, your synthetic things, and this is what you've done by being ignorant to what it does mean and being mistaught as to how it does function.
What is DMT? They say that the pineal gland secretes this chemical DMT. It's called the spirit molecule. It is believed to be released during dreaming, and that you can have all types of spiritual and mystical experiences. Could you please go into this DMT that I keep hearing about?
Yes, dimethyltryptophan. That's what a lot of the people now are using. You know, there's a big controversy now about cannabis. And it's as they say, what goes around comes around. Let me just say again to your audience, because your audience is vast and your audience is very astute and differentiated. I'm going to talk to those who are melanated, and I'm going to talk to those who are psychic, and I want to talk to those who believe in nature and not so much the synthetic mankind type thing. Cannabis was used all over this planet. It grew all over this planet. The misuse of cannabis can be like any other thing. You can misuse anything. You can misuse a good thing if you consist it to do against what its very nature is. So that means marijuana, and it used to grow everywhere. It also is one of many other substances because they have asway. I don't want to get into too many things, but there are many other things that can stimulate it too. But it was a natural, really absorbed type of a thing that once it was taken in, it helped the body to relax and it helped that gland to begin to work along with it. So dimethyltryptophan simply means tryptophan, and so relaxes you. It keeps you calm. So this is what it does. It's a gland that keeps you very calm because it goes to let you know that you have a soul, that you are not the body, but you are in the body, and it is like your chemicals or your food or your medicine to keep you being able to graduate between the two. A lack of this substance, again, now you got to go pharmaceutical. And here's the two things here. There is not one pharmaceutical drug, and Merck's index looks over 6,000. United States Dispensary of Pharmaceutical Medicine looks over 7,000 that can do anything to permanently repair or regenerate in the human body. And definitely with a person with melanin, it acts as a counter. It acts against the natural things because it makes it synthetic, and melanin hates anything synthetic. Your pineal gland does not synthesize because it already is a direct link. This is the trouble with those who have little melanin and those who look at it without understanding the nature of that gland. It is your psychic gland. It is your gland that allows you to do things that other people can't do, and through jealousy and ignorance, it's gotten distorted. And now they even have a name when you do things like that. It's called a distortion field. They're actually making things to distort the weather and all like this, so it lets you see again. Once you start to distort, it never ends.
Now, being that we know that the pineal gland secretes melatonin, and we know that melatonin is secreted at night, it's kind of, the pineal gland is this doorway to other dimensions. I want to ask you, why is it? Now they tell us that we should sleep at night. You're supposed to sleep at night when the sun goes down. But from my experience, what I notice is that the most creative people that I've met in my life down here, they're awake at night, and they come up with some of the most amazing ideas during the nighttime or while everybody else is asleep. Artists, musicians, inventors, a lot of people, they use this nighttime melatonin, pineal gland, whatever term we want to use for, but they use this energy and they come up with so much creative things. So could you talk to me about why is it that at nighttime people seem to be more creative? Or am I just, is this just my experience, or have you experienced this as well?
Well, yes, and this is what I do. I go into meditation. This is why we sell the monatomic gold, because there's a company out there, which I'm not going to name, which makes two kinds of gold, and that's it. The company I'm with has 15 kinds of gold and coming up with more each day because they're adapting to the changing of the sun and the changing of the elements. Between the hours of 10 and 2, And you see, here's another thing I have to say, because everything here has been distorted. You got daylight saving time, you got the international dateline, so it gets confusing. For instance, right now, I'm in the Central Standard Time. Californians on the West Coast are 2 hours behind me. You're 1 hour ahead of me. These things are not natural. This is what this distortion has done. It's gotten people out of whack. So normally, if you take the monatomic gold powder, whenever it is you choose to go to sleep, put it under the tongue, try not to eat. It will help your body to start secreting melatonin. It will help your body to become more psychic whenever you take it. And habits are formed. We get habitual habit patterns. So consequently, usually between the hours of 10 and 2 is your time when you're most active. And if you can remember to train your body has a good memory. It has a natural built-in clock. And it will synthesize whenever you tell it to. Plus the fact, the more you take command of your body, the more you can operate it on its own. Sometimes this is good and bad because melanin has a natural reaction to sunlight. Sunlight is what the planet has, so you've already adapted to it. But it can be changed based, again, on your willpower, and the amount of energy and intelligence and spirituality that you have.
I noticed that, we're talking about nighttime. I noticed that if you have to get up in the morning, like if you have to get up at a certain time in the morning, this is just a little personal experience, and you tell your body or your mind or your pineal gland that you have to get up at 6 o'clock, your body will wake up at that time without the need of alarm clock. But
you better believe it. You found that out.
We've grown so accustomed to technology and the assistance of all this, all this stuff that they get, all these external things that they give us, that we don't realize that we have all this internally. You know what I'm saying? So now is that associated with the pineal gland, the ability to tell yourself that I'm going to get up at a certain time, and you just automatically wake up at that time?
Natural and unnatural, legal and lawful. This is what we find on this planet. We have two counter-distinct cultures, two counter-distinct ways of thought, and until you choose which one you're going to get, and if you begin to vacillate between the two, you're going to get neither from neither. You got to make a decision nowadays. People must decide. Are you going to have spiritual souls and operate that the Creator is smarter than any natural or unnatural born scientist? Or are you going to find newcomers trying to duplicate everything they already see, and once it's duplicated, it loses that spiritual aspect of it. I choose to follow lawfulness. I choose to follow naturalness. And with naturalness, this is what you can do. You can train your body to do anything you want to. Remember this, too. They had what is called the Human Genome Project, in which they wound up, and I said when they started that thing, I don't know when they started, but they perfected it supposedly about 1992 or 93 again. I said, oh, my God, here we go. Oh, Creator, here goes a mess. Now they've tried to duplicate better than what the original Creator of man and mankind made by getting synthesis. And now we take everything synthetic, we take it for granted. You got watermelons with no seeds. You got grapefruit with no seeds. They got lemons now with no seeds. That means it cannot germinate. And when you get that, you're losing the natural ways of rebuilding your body, causing youthfulness, causing longevity, and now we got to go be chemical dependence. So I'm saying again, it's a choice. The choices are easy. Be natural, be a natural soul-driven body, and a body that will now respond to the naturalness of common law, or being illegal, and I call that a sick bird, using synthetic things, and then hoping that your glands will catch up. More melanin in those glands, they're not going to catch up. They're going to begin to fail, and you're going to be caught pretty soon with synthesis, going to the pharmacist every day to do what you normally, the normal hormones that you used to be replaced, now must be based with these synthetic things I call vitamins and stuff like that.
How does I've read a lot of articles talking about how fluoride affects the pineal gland, and we know fluoride is in our tap water, our drinking water. Could you go into the harmful effects fluoride may have? Because a lot of people still use fluoride-based toothpaste. They drink the fluoride infected water. So could you go into that a little bit, Dr. Blair?
That whole thing with fluoride and chlorine, fluoride is a deadly poison. And people are going out buying it for their children, brushing their teeth to fluoridate that. It's funny. We could go into how all that got started, but that's just a tangent again. Everything now, there are two cultures here. There is a belief that naturalness is not natural, and that's by people who are unnatural, the less that you have a soul and utilize it, the less that you have a spirit and utilize it, the less that you understand the laws of nature, you begin to circumvent the laws of nature by using in what they call man-made laws. This is why I call it legal and lawful. It should be illegal to produce fluoride into the water system, but it's not, because legality can be changed. It is unlawful. And once you follow that ignorance, you are unlawfully committing sins against what you would call the natural creator. Anytime fluoride is there, it makes a man into a woman. It makes a woman into the man. That's one of about 15 things, and 3 basic ones, that are causing now homosexuality to come more, I guess, and along these lines. We don't understand. They used to use this in prison camps and in prison. They used to use it in a term of saltpeter, by which would take away the natural glands and drives so that people that were more docile and would not become, but it also created a synthetic type of a new type person, because the natural laws were not then followed. You cannot twist and play around. You either have to be lawful and spiritual, or you have to be legal and unspiritual. And once you start training the two, and once you start crossing the two, you get the results. People that go crazy, people that are one way, and in another way, they don't seem to be any balance to their bodies, because you have to follow one law or no laws. You're either legal or you're unlawful, or you're lawful and illegal. So this is pretty much what's happening there. It's a choice of the people. But when you start mixing them up, you can get into all kind of problems. There's another thing, too. When we come out of the body at night, we actually can go into different dimensions. I simply mean by that we have a very, what they call a vibratory universe around us. Everything is a process of movement. Everything has highs and lows. Everything has yin and yang. Everything has good and bad. And once you begin to act in a spiritual sense, you cannot just suddenly say, well, I'm going to be unspiritual. Just like if you act in an unspiritual sense, you cannot suddenly say, I'm going to be spiritual. It doesn't work that way. And so when you begin to try to use both, you get neither. And this is a problem we have now again. The sun is putting out more energy than ever before. They're talking now about, I heard some meteorologists and physical scientists and these astronomers and all of these things talking about that sunspot activity is at an all-time low. Bull. I have never heard anything like this before. Sunspot activity is not at its all-time low. In fact, the kind of sunspots that are now being created, if these sunspots were released back in 1895 or in 1905, you'd be dead, because our bodies are adapting. Our planet is adapting. The magnetic fields of this planet are altering. Magnetic poles are now shifting. I didn't say the poles are shifting. What did I say? Magnetic poles are now shifting. So everything now is being abrogated. It's being changed, and you must change with that. So once you understand that, you can begin to draw through willpower, and through intelligence, you can draw to your body what you need. So there's a big change going on. The coronal mass ejections coming from the sun, the CMEs, are at an all-time high also. But instead of burning up the planet, it's giving the planet more energy, because the planet needs that energy to transmute. There's a big change going on, if people haven't noticed. And as our planet takes in more energy, which it needs, and we get our energy from the sun, that's why they used to teach you there's nothing new under the sun. Now we can begin to become what the Creator wants this planet to be, a higher vibrating planet through sunlight. And if we're on this planet, we must also vibrate faster too. That's why it's very important to get in sunlight, very important to get in natural things, not synthetic things. And again, when they start dealing with these aboriginal things, these fluoride and chlorine and stuff like that, you're setting yourself back, you're causing a distortion in your own field, and you'll suffer because of it.
I want to talk about the diet, a person's diet for a second. Does eating meat, because there's a perception that, the more spiritual you become, you start to leave meat alone. You leave pork alone, you leave beef alone, you leave chicken alone. Does eating meat calcify your pineal gland? Does it hurt? Does it have an effect on your spirituality?
Whatever chemicals you take in there, and then let me go over what I said to you earlier, the consistency of truth doesn't change. Anytime you take in anything synthetic, You're stopping things that were unsynthetic from operating. If you have a diesel engine and you put in some of this high octane other stuff, your engine will die on you. Your whole thing, your carburetor will burn out. You cannot cross what you're made to have. Certain bodies are made to be more natural, and that's why they have the melanin. Certain bodies are made to be less natural. That's why they have less melanin. The less melanin you take, the more synthetic. The less melanin you manufacture, the more synthetic you can take in. The more that you're going to manufacture direct spirituality, you cannot crossbreed. Now, animals already have taken energy and produced their own flesh. Now you're eating their flesh. This is why if you're taking the skin flesh itself, it does nothing. It's just hard to process and break down. But if you're eating the organs and the glands like they used to teach you, at least you're getting a direct feed from that particular element. But you're getting in all the poisons that were there. You're getting all the toxins that were there. And since they now raise things for slaughter, you're getting to all the hybrid things that are in there and synthetic again. That's why it's bad. Now, if you're a football player, you want to have a body that's 400 pounds, and you want to be 7'8", then you're going to have to eat that kind of stuff because it's now working on the physical and not the metaphysical. It's now working on the physical and not the spiritual. It's according to what you're trying to do. If you can be a big football player and eat all that meat, and then sometimes find a way to come out of the body at night with your spiritual self, then you're bilocate, not bipolar, but you can bilocate. It's usually very difficult to do both. And if you know now, since they have genetic modification, they've got all kind of, well, you know what they call it, all kind of modified things in the hamburgers and stuff. In fact, they even have people ground up in hamburger now. You start getting that mess in, the body's got to look through all of that before it can become natural. That is the problem. It is not so much the meat itself. It is, are you going to stay metaphysical and spiritual, or are you going to be just a physical monster out here on the physical body? Whatever one you give power to and credence to, that's what you become.
Do all species have a pineal gland? You know, like some people have cats in their home because they say cats can see spirits, and, you know, or just humans have pineal glands.
I've heard a counter of both. I've heard that there are some active pineal glands in almost every creature. I do know in dogs that they do have a pineal gland, and in horses they do have a pineal gland. So I'm assuming that in all, I haven't really studied that to a point to say that nobody is directed without having a pineal gland. There are many cases that have been talked about who has a soul, who doesn't have a soul. If you've been around animals, especially those animals that try to adapt to you, the dogs, some cats, horses, things like this, you will find that they have a sensibility. They can sense you. They don't speak your language. You know, people talk about dumb dogs. Dogs can sit in a circle. You don't hear them barking and woofing and going on. They use mental telepathy, and then they all move out and do the same thing. That's dumb? No. It just means instead of using words and talking forever, they're now using the psychic ability to know what you're thinking. That's why at one time, that's another whole field too, that's why one time of our planet, they had to produce languages to confuse the masses. Once you produce language, you had to speak. Before that time, you didn't have to speak because you could read minds. Ability, by the way, which is coming back to people who are natural, people who are using melanin, they're beginning to pick up your thoughts. This is what they call psychic readings. You want a good psychic? Usually the more melanin that person has, the more potential for being a good psychic, because now they're reading your thoughts, not caring about what comes out of your mouth, what comes into your head. And that's the way it should be anyway. A lot of this is coming back in the practice now, and melanin helps to bring that on even faster.
You talk about, and I'm grateful for this because, for years and years I've learned so much from you as far as the ELF waves and, how our electronics produce these low-frequency waves and how it's harmful and how it affects and calcifies our pineal gland. And I know everybody, most of the people that's going to be watching this or listening to this, is going to be on their computer, these electrical devices. So could you tell the people what exactly are these because we got electrical towers everywhere now, and there was I think a study done where a person tried to grow a plant by an electrical tower and the plant wouldn't grow, and when they tried to grow the same plant away from it and the plant blossomed into a beautiful plant. So how does this plant, if this if these towers and these ELF waves is doing this to plants, what are all these electronics we have in the home doing to our pineal gland?
You know, there was an old movie, I think Stevie Wonder had part of The Secret Life of Plants and stuff, where they showed this aberration again. They showed you two plants that were in a room. You know how that went. I'm sure everybody does. I'll do it in a minute's time. Two plants. They began to see that once you did something to one plant, the other plant could pick up what you did to the other plant in another room, which let you know that there was a bond there that went along. We have plants. That's why when you eat a lot of green things and a lot of plants, the plants are now in you. They've now been eaten up, but instead of dying, they're now reborn. We eat, each phylum the mineral phylum tries to become the insect tries to become this and that, because everything is spiraling upward. As they say, we have 7 trillion cells supposedly in the human genome product again. So, again, the cells, again, of the body react to light and energy. Your cell phone towers that you see everywhere, you think they're up there for nothing? You see these other towers that have iron pads on it, they have infrared lamps and everything on it. They're constantly radiating you. This is why we have what they call diomids to protect you against that. Laptops. People put their laptop, sit in the bed, and put it right on their lap, right on their sex organ, and some of them even go to sleep with them on, or go to sleep with the cell phone right by their head at night when they go to sleep. These are all producing ELF waves. Motors, wireless routers, satellite radios, receivers, radar equipment, mobile phones, MPS players, MP3 players, washers, dryers, what else can I think about? X-ray equipment, the home wiring. You know, you got a circuit breaker box down there. All these things are producing extra low frequency, even over your head. You have fluorescent lights. They got a ballast up there, and they got neon gas in there and argon gas. If you break that thing, it will explode, and it's deadly poison. They even now have mercury vapor lamps. Try to get an old luminescent bulb now. See what you pay for it. Mercury vapor lamps produce nothing but mercury. Mercury is a deadly poison. Everything that's coming out now is dangerous to you, and unless you have sense, unless you have wisdom, and unless you understand that there is a battle going on, you fall victim to it, because it's not by accident. It's because of control that certain forces on this earth want you to be distorted. They want you to be weak. All of those things are dangerous. None of those things should be used. To use them and have comforts and to make money, and you say, I got to have my computer and smartphone, then you have to get diodes. And right now, our diode supply is very hard to get, because, and here we got to go again now, over in Japan, and the Fukushima Daiichi, those 6 nuclear reactors are all leaking. Don't let them lie to you. They're all leaking. Some have completely leaked. They have poisoned the water there. They're poisoning everything else that you have. So now, because of that, the diodes have shown these people can get relief and help them. They're buying diodes faster than I can sell them, and unfortunately, their contract is directly to the company, so I can't even get diodes. That shows you how much these diodes are needed, because when the chips are down, they're not doing other things. They're buying diodes, diode matrices, diode this and that. So again, ELF waves, extra low frequency. The lower the frequency, the more dangerous to the potential. The lower the vibration, the more dangerous to potential. It is our duty as souls to raise our vibrations upward, not to become low frequencies. This is why, again, people are changing. Some people are dying. Some people are getting sick. Others are getting more psychic. You have to adapt. The Creator has said that this planet is going higher in vibration, and we either believe that there is a Creator that has more wisdom than these scientists and follow that, or we follow the scientists to our death and to sickness. And, of course, the morgues are full. The hospitals are full. And, of course, the area now for people who are waking up is also full. It's a matter of your choice.
Once again, this Underground Railroad Productions, Brother Rich, your host, with our guest of the week, Dr. Blair. Dr. Blair, give him that website. It's such a powerful show today, and I'm glad you're dealing with all of this this pineal gland right here, because it's very important. We're in a major paradigm shift. Give them that website one more time, Dr. Blair, because the services you're offering are going to help us make this leap to the next dimension. What is your website, brother?
www.wideworldweb, Metaphysical Center. We simply call it for short Meta Center. It's got nothing to do with a medical center. It's the Metaphysical Center, the metacenter.com. We suggest that as you dial www.themetacenter.com, you also push the number 2. either right when you finish or just before you put the .com. The number 2, make sure that you go to my site, the Mediciner site, and not to these abrogated sites that steal from me, and that's why it's all over YouTube. You're the exception. I say that all the time. So that takes you to my site and not to the distorted sites. Steal from me, give me nothing back on my research, and I don't think that that's fair.
You know, I wanted to ask you something about that. Since we're dealing with spirituality, and the Pineal. Okay, what you was going to say?
I was going to give the phone number too. In a while,
okay.
Still
yeah.
Notes on if they're listening, and it is. Yeah, it's 708-422-6685. 708-422-6685. And thank you very much.
Well, let me continue where I was going. Then we'll go back to that. I know you dealt a lot. Now, for those tuning in late, or for those who just joined the broadcast, maybe I don't know, you might be doing something else and you just started to listen. We're dealing with the pineal gland, its function, its purpose, the history behind it, and how to tap back into it. Being that it was called the seat of the soul in ancient times. This gland that's located in the center of the brain, Dr. Blair. I know you dealt with hypnotism before. You have the alpha brainwave, the beta, the theta, delta, and the delta. Now, I've read that children from the time they're born to the age of 7, their brain waves is constantly in an alpha state, meaning that they are extremely receptive to whatever you give them. This is why they have the ability to learn multiple instruments, learn 3 languages. They're just like a sponge absorbing everything you give them. How can we tap into the older you get, you start to leave that brain wave, and your brain waves start to speed up, and you get into I think it's called beta, or our normal awake state. But how can we go back into these brain wave states that we were in as a child, so that we may manifest on large levels, so that we can learn? They had this movie out one year called Limitless, where this guy took a pill and he was able just to access all types of information. And it's like these children, they're able to access all types of stuff and learn all types of stuff, and then we lose that, it seems, as adults. How can we access that brain wave state where we could access infinite source and be able to manifest or do whatever it is we want, Dr. Blair?
Well, it's much easier to keep what you have than to find what you have, lose it, and try to get it back. So we were born with that proclivity. That's why we're born with certain people with melanin, different degrees of melanin, certain ancestors and certain patterns, certain potentials again. But the whole point is, they're even talking now about alpha males. Now they got alpha females again, which means your top line, your higher vibrational things again along this line. Unfortunately, there are people these women that give birth to, how can I put this down? Because I have to watch what I say here now. First of all, let me say that this is my opinion, that this is what I will do. I'm not a licensed medical doctor. I'm a PhD in history, a whole different things. And whatever I'm saying is what I would do for self. You have your choice, and everybody has their choice of doing whatever they want to. Having put out that disclaimer, I now state what I would do. In understanding that if I were a female, or if I'm the daddy and she's a mommy and she's going to a hospital to give birth, I have to be very careful. Because I know when I go into the hospital, unless I've signed a waiver or disclaimer and also stayed with that child each day, before that child gets out of the hospital, that baby will be given 7 shots, including hepatitis C shots. And there's no rule on earth for a newborn baby to have hepatitis C. These are also now synthetic shots, pharmaceutical shots, and they take away the natural ability of the mother. They even tell the mothers they cannot breastfeed. Their breast will become flat, Why do you want to do that again? Well, the two things that happen. When you breastfeed, not only are you creating hormones, you're also tightening up the womb. You also cannot get pregnant while you're doing that again. So you're accomplishing two things, tightening up the big belly to make it tight, getting more secretions of that, and you're bonding that baby's soul to you so that now that baby is as psychic as you are. It had from the mother, father, that one. These are all things you lose when you have unnatural birth or when you go to the hospitals with the aid, because of many people, they want these things Enduron, or because their spines, the vagina will not stretch and uterus will not do correctly. But this is the danger you take. So once you do that, they're usually going to put a chip in you and everything else. So now you got a child that had a lot of proclivities that now has been distorted. That is done purposely. We don't have time to cover all of that because that gets into why are they doing these things. But worse than that, why are there people so dumbed down, comatose, brainwashed, inoculated, vaccinated, encrypted, that they haven't believed what people are telling them? And this is one of the reasons for autism, too. That's a whole different program, a whole different field. But you know me, I'm going to tell you like it is and like it or lump it. That's the way I understand it.
One second, Dr. Blair. Now, I've read a lot that we are carbon-based beings. We're talking about this pineal gland being a producer of melanin. Another word for melanin is carbon. They say, according to my research, we talk about the changes that are occurring. Due to the changes that occur and the paradigm shift that we're about to experience, they say we are going from carbon-based beings to crystal-based beings. Now, if this is the case, how is this going to affect the pineal? What effect does this have on the pineal gland? If the pineal gland is producing carbon, but we're entering this age where we're becoming crystal beings, what happens with how does this affect us?
There are certain assumptions there that I don't agree with, so I therefore cannot reach a conclusion with you because the assumption is one that I do not agree with. Again, carbon is a natural thing. If you burn anything again, you get this blackness, which they call carbon. Carbonic acid and carbolic acid are two different things. So when you're saying carbon, you're talking about the last thing from dark matter that shows that the thing that was in deteriorates. We're now going, and I'm going to use this very slowly. We're now, because we're on this planet, and the planet takes us where we want to go, okay, unless we come out at night, as I say, and then we go on our own. Our planet is going into what they call a new galaxy. They refer to it as a Milky Way galaxy. Now, when I was in school, they taught me we were already in the Milky Way galaxy. Well, I've been out of school now 20 years. I've spent all my life in it, but that's 20 years ago. I don't know what they're teaching now. In fact, when I was first in school, I had 96 tables on 96 elements on the table of elements. You know what we're on now. Now, let's go from that one. If we're going into a higher rate of vibration and a new dimension in the Milky Way galaxy again, 3/4 of this Milky Way galaxy has what they call, I forget the name, and I thought I'd never forget that. But at any rate, the Oort field. The Oort field means that 75% of whatever is in this new galaxy again is of dark matter. It is dark matter. Dark matter is everywhere. It is the building block of life in the cosmos. Notice I didn't say what. Galaxy, constellation, solar system, Noctis. I said the cosmos. Dark matter is everywhere. If you want to call that carbon, then that's what you call it. It is not carbon. It is the source of all life. Light comes from the darkness. And this is why the statements were made superficially in some of the Bible and stuff, let there be light. So wherever you have is darkness, is carbonation, if you would. Now, once you begin to understand that, you bring in the light. Light must be brought in, because with the production of darkness, it will produce light. You cannot get darkness from light, but you can get light from darkness. That can get into a whole philosophical discussion about all these carbon atoms and so on like that again. It is not the waste product. It's going back to what it originated in the first place was.
Now, we deal with the pineal gland and it being, our access to other dimensions. I know one thing Albert Einstein said is that he felt as though imagination is more important than knowledge, and that any inventor that we have, they always talk about the imagination that they have and how they're able to tap into the imagination. And once again, children access imagination very easily, but for some reason when we get older, we give up the imagination. So could you talk a little bit about the power of your imagination and the ability it has and the effect it has on this realm?
Well, let me do something, because you did something that I don't particularly care for. So I'm going to put my 1 cent in again. You used Einstein as a theoretical scientist and physicist who now you said his theory. He never proved his theory. Obeye, the Nigerian guy from Africa, proved his theory because he used mentality and that the mind controls matter. That was not Einstein's theory. He could not prove it. Obeye did prove it. This is why when you have melanin, you can act independently of the brain. Hear that. Every cell that has melanin has a distortion index so it can protect itself because it's picking vibrations up just like anything as you go along. And once you can begin to get that, the mind is universal. This is why they refer to it as cosmic universal mind. The brain is localized. One uses brain power. The other uses mind power. Give me mind power any day. So based on that one, I now say, on that theory, when Einstein couldn't prove it, Obeye did prove it. Again, it simply means is we've got to find two things. You're either going to be spiritual, have a soul, and do the things that keeps the soul on this planet, or you're going to be unspiritual, leave this planet, and begin to go where the lesser vibration planet is. This planet is going up in vibration. If we're going to stay with it, we must get out of that other foolishness and begin to use our minds, universal minds, and the souls that we have before we actually will lose them.
What do you think about this? A couple of years ago, the documentary "The Secret" came out, and this information has been around, for forever. But a lot of people started tapping into this law, the law of attraction, where you attract what you think about, or what you or what you talk about, or what you give your energy to. If that's the case, and we're dealing with the spiritual seat, the spiritual center that connects us to infinite intelligence, are we focusing our attention when we talk about chemtrails, when we talk about the draconians, when we talk about the ELF waves, or when we talk about all these things, are we focusing our attention on the wrong thing? And when I say focusing our attention, I mean giving our energy away, because attention is your current, it's your currency. So are we throwing our currency away when we focus on these things, or should we focus more on that intuitive, that, our pineal gland, our spiritual centers? Should we be more focused on the internal and less on the external?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Because of the draconian rule of this planet, and I choose my words carefully, we've begun to take matter and take matter as being physical, and take the physical as being the most acquired and natural. We need money. But why do we need money? Because that's the way we've been brought up, and without money, you now cannot do anything. There was a time you bartered. There was a time money wasn't necessary. But because we're ruled by the draconians, they must introduce money. Therefore, they can introduce banking. Therefore, they can introduce riches and powerfulness. And they can have some that have a lot and others that have nothing. This was perfectly set up there. It is not the only law and the way we can live. It's the way we've gotten used to. Based on that, we do everything we can to acquire the money, which means we support the banking system. We support fiat currency. And by the way, all of that is changing. You got revolts everywhere. That's into another whole thing. You got choices that are being made by people. Come out of Iraq back into Iraq. Once we can begin to understand that this is all a dream, this is all a illusion. Our souls are mortal. Our souls are not mortal. Our souls are universal. But since we chose these souls to be locked into a body on a planet, and now the planet that we came into was to suffer here and to understand how low a planet can go, But now, because of all these advanced souls, you're one and I'm one. That's why we can go here while others can't even comprehend what we're talking about, because that's why you're here, and you're here as a leader. You're here there to develop your consciousness, to develop your spirituality. And there must always be light bringers, way showers. That's what we're both doing here now. Those who don't understand that, there's nothing you can do to make them understand. There might be a word that triggers their response if they have a soul. Many of these people have lost their souls, and we're not going to get into that either. But this is the whole point. This is the big battle, the battle for spiritual consciousness and awakening to let this planet go forth as it should be and not as it was. It is no longer a zoo. It is no longer a third-dimensional, low-vibrating planet with everything you can think of here. It's now, because of its suffering, going to be granted the right to go into higher dimensions. I know we talked about that before, so I won't touch that unless you want to go there. This is a time of change. This is a time to get rid of superstition and understand metaphysician. Get past just a super, get into the physician of the universe, the universal cosmic prime creator. Get into natural laws and forget these man-made laws which will no longer be in effect. They're being substituted and replaced, and we must replace them if we're going to go forward. If not, we will lose these physical bodies, and if these physical bodies have not attained the right to get rid of the body and live by the soul, then you're going to be born again, going through the same hell again. It's a matter of choices. Everybody can feel it. Some can't express it.
On that note, our hour is up. I would like to take this time to thank Dr. Blair for joining us once again this week. It's been a powerful hour. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Once again, all those listening, his site is going to be posted in the description bar, whether you're on Blog Talk or YouTube or wherever, so you can see it, www.themetaCenter2.com. Check it out. The brother has some awesome products that help you elevate, elevate yourself spiritually and physically. So it's amazing. Thank you, Dr. Blair, and I look forward to seeing you next time, brother.
And I thank you very much, and I do hope, again, your audience, and you have a vast one, joins me on my telecom coming up this Saturday, the 28th, where we're going to look into that with the feminine quality of what's happening here, too, and the reason why femininity is coming up. The reasons why now we're finding that our whole planet, which is a female, is now asking that feminine principle be honored, and why we got in such a crisis now of lesbianism, of homosexuality, and heterosexuality. I hope that your audience will kind of join me on that day, on this coming Saturday, or go to our website. Thank you once again, Brother Merritt. Like I say, I respect you highly. Creator bless you and yours.
All right. Peace, brother.